Ladies and gentlemen, it is such an honor today to be with you, to present you the Steve Show. On this 4th of September 2013, not only our show is very special, and the reason why is because we bring you a very special guest. Her name is Gwen Williams. It's such an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Steve. I'm really pleased to be here. I really like what you're doing with your TV programs and highlighting local people. And I was really glad when you contacted me because I love to talk about what I do. So, anyhow, thank you very much.
You are quite welcome. Gwen, I was very pleased when I saw on facebook.com/gogetitnow within our events that some viewers already started to ask you questions. I am sure people would love to know to start more about you.
Okay, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself.
Yes.
Basically, it's been a long kind of spiritual journey to find out exactly what my purpose is in life, and it's been a long process of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. I've done lots of different careers, and I've done lots of studying, and I've had a very interesting life and a very enjoyable life, but I always felt there was something more. I always felt that maybe I was settling and I wasn't quite where I needed to be, but in fact that was just part of the process. And so, like I said, I always believe that the universe is looking after us and that things will come and will be looked after, and if we just trust, everything works out. So it's been a long process. And I'm a grandmother. I have 3 children. I have 4 grandchildren and a wonderful husband who supports me. And so I have a really, really good life. It's been up and down. I know I lived in the city for a long time. I worked many jobs. Raised my 3 children by myself pretty much. My mom helped me quite a lot, thank you, Mom. And so it's been a bit of a rat race living in the city, so I actually took over my family cottage in Muscatella Harbor. And I always believed that that was a healing place. It's a beautiful spot on the lake. It has really great feng shui, and I'll tell you a bit about that in a bit. Really good energy, and but I didn't know how I was going to do the healing. So it was actually in 2008, I had actually decided I was going back to school and going to medicine. I wrote my MCATs because I didn't know anything else. So I've had lots of careers, and I said I think the best part of my career is for being a mother. Being a mother really for me is probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. Most important thing in my life. So even though my careers were exciting, for example, I started out in science. I've always been a scientist. I went to the agricultural college. I got an honors science degree in agriculture. And the reason I did that was I felt that we didn't have enough variety of food in the world. That we really needed to improve the variety of foods because we're dependent on so few species, and that we really need to improve our nutrition. So I spent a lot of years in agricultural science. And then I had to move home from the University of Guelph, so I ended up in medical research. I was in medical research for 12 years. Really enjoyed that. I worked in the basic laboratory and in pharmacology, and then I moved into clinical research as a research associate. I always had a principal investigator, but it was really exciting, and I always wanted to feel like I was doing something to help people ultimately in terms of their health. And I have to say the most enjoyable part of working in research was working with the patients in the clinical studies that we did. I really enjoyed that. The funding was difficult back then in 1996, and so I switched over to IT. And I liked IT, I was good at it, and always wanted to use technology to help people, and so I went back to school. So I've been going to school, I think I've got 13 years of education post high school, so I keep trying new things, and so I went into IT, and then I felt that wasn't it, and wanted to get back working with people. So I started working with seniors, managing a seniors home, looking after the drugs and things like that. I just loved it. I went into health promotion for a while, and that's when in 2008 I decided to write my MCATs, because I really wanted to get to that healing didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what that looked like. And the only thing I knew, because of my science background, was medicine. And it didn't quite feel right. I really felt maybe they wouldn't accept me, even if I did pass and do well, because I'm an older person. I wasn't sure if they'd accept me. And that's when my daughter was having difficulties with migraines, and nothing was helping. Western medicine wasn't helping. So I took my chance in going to a local acupuncturist, and it was amazing what he did. And I had terrible stiff shoulders. I tried all sorts of modalities I think it went for 6 months, where I couldn't get rid of the pain, and tried, changing the way I sat, and tried all sorts of things. Within the second treatment, first treatment, 80% of my pain was gone. The second treatment, it was totally gone. I was totally amazed. And then there's a big poster up on the wall that said Eastern College giving an acupuncture program, and I kept saying to my daughter, "You've got to take that. We've got to take that." And then I finally realized that maybe that was meant for me. And so it worked out perfectly. I had a full-time job on the weekends at the seniors' home. I was working full-time in IT during the week, and they managed to schedule it so that I could actually go to school. So after 2008, I went to school full-time. I worked 2 full-time jobs. So I have to say, I loved every minute of it. It was really hard. I have to say that I think that the course in Chinese medicine was even more difficult than my own BSc. Very hard to get your head around a very different philosophy of how to treat people. And I know as we went through school, people kept saying, for example, in acupuncture, how would you treat fibromyalgia, for example? And the teacher would always say, that depends. Because really it depends on the person. And you don't treat diseases, we treat people. And every person is different. So we don't talk about treating fibromyalgia, we don't talk about treating diabetes, we talk about treating the person.
I agree with you.
And the reason being, in Western medicine, and again, I have a scientific background. I worked in all levels of research, from the test tube right up through to whole animal studies, to working in the clinic, in the OR and clinics and things like that. So it's very easy to control experimentation at the molecular level and controlled studies, but as you get into people, and you need lots and lots of data, because there's so many variables in the whole person, the whole animal, and you have to make sure that your population that you're studying is homogeneous or the same. And it's very difficult to get a group of people that are identical. And I always knew that there's more to, even though science was telling us so much, even the scientists I work with said, we really don't know very much. And the truth is, we don't know as much as people think we do. And we know a lot, but there's still so much out there. And I always knew there was something more. So here I was in pharmacology with a background in plants, and kept thinking, why are we looking to plants for healing? Why aren't the pharmacologists looking at plants for healing? And what we would do was we study the physiological processes, then we would take various known chemicals, and we try to see how we can change the broken process, for example. So it was all chemical based, all based on matching a component to what's broken. And we never did. I always liked that movie, The Medicine Man, where he went out into the forest and found this flower up in the jungle, and it was going to be a cure for something. I know they did find a cure, for example, tamoxifen, I think it is, for breast cancer. That was a plant that they found somewhere in Ontario or something. I'm not sure the details. But again, I always thought that we should go to nature and look for the cure. And we weren't doing that, so I became very discouraged with that. And so when I found Chinese medicine, and I realized that there's this whole other knowledge out there, I thought, oh my goodness, this is it. This is absolutely it. It was like the ancient knowledge that, why would we be put on the earth without having a way to look after ourselves? It doesn't make sense. The birds have a way to look after themselves. The animals do. Why? Nature looks after them. Why wouldn't nature look after us? If you look in your yard, I love what the herbalists are doing, the local herbalists who do the Western herbs. You know, you look in your lawn and you see the plantain and the dandelion and so many things to heal yourself. And so the Chinese actually kept that ancient tradition. They kept building on it. And so what's so different about Chinese medicine is that it's like being a gardener as opposed to a mechanic where you break or fix the part that's broken. You look at a big picture. You look at patterns. They have these theories. Now, the theories are based on, some of them coming from this book called The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine, called the Ni Jing, and this is the Suzanne portion of it. It's all about medicine. We still use today some of the concepts from here. It's all about being in harmony with nature. And if we're in harmony with nature and we take the herbs and things around us and live in harmony with nature, then you should be healthy. And so this is really an important book for our time right now, but this is what acupuncture is based on. It came from Taoism, and it's all about being in harmony, being in balance. And when people aren't well, it's because something's out of balance. So if you have pain, say from fibromyalgia, when things aren't flowing, you've got energy in the body, you've got fluids in the body, blood, things, if they're not flowing, if the qi, we call it qi, is not flowing and it's stopped or stagnant because there's trauma or there's phlegm or heat or cold or something stopping it, then you're going to get pain. So it's up to us to try to look at the whole picture. So even though we have a Western medicine diagnosis, we do a totally different diagnosis. We look for patterns. So we have a number of things in Chinese medicine. We have these theories that talk about what all the organ systems do and how they relate to one another. Quite often it's related to the 5-element chart, or it's related to nature because we're part of nature. We're connected with nature. So anything on the outside affects the inside. And so there's these theories that we have. And then what we do is we look at signs and symptoms, we call them. So if you come into me with a cough, a runny nose, sore knees, or ringing in your ears, we put all these things together. We look at your tongue. We look at patterns of the color and the coating of the tongue. We look at the pulse, and we feel the quality of the pulses. Not so much the speed, but whether it's soggy or wiry or bumpy or whatever. It's not a term we use. We have different terms. So we take all the signs and symptoms. We ask you about your life. We ask you about your mental, emotional life, your family life, your work stress, because even just the way you talk, your philosophy of life, say you come in and you're always afraid of this, afraid of that. Fear is based in the kidney meridian and the water meridian. So you're bound to have these kidney issues. So we have to look at the big picture. And we take all these signs and symptoms and we allocate, we diagnose in according to patterns. And so many different patterns out there. Everybody's different. So one person with diabetes or fibromyalgia that may be the presenting problem, but you may have underlying problems that are causing it. And what you have and someone else has may not be the same. So you may have an underlying condition or pattern that's different. So unless we can really diagnose what you have, then we can't effectively treat it. So acupuncture fits into that. So we have our theories, we have all our pattern diagnosis, and then we have our tools. And the tools are herbal formulas. We have acupuncture, we have cupping, gua sha, which is scraping technique, tuina massage, which is a really rough massage. You get the elbows and the chopping, and my mom says it feels like a truck ran over. So we have all these, and we have masturbation, which is burning of mudwort, which is really effective. So we have these techniques. Acupuncture is one of them. And if you look at all the acupuncture points in the body, there's like 360, there's up to 400 because there's all these special points. And every point has an action or a set of characteristics that it does to the body, and they're all based in the patterns that we use in Chinese medicine. So, you may have points around here, or He-See points they call them, but they're going to affect certain things. So when you put together your point prescription, A, you have to have an accurate diagnosis. B, your point prescription has to address those issues. The underlying, I always do the underlying, I always do the presenting problems. Another one thing, I have a toothache or a sore knee. But I also treat the spiritual and emotional. And because many points have spiritual and emotional things, quite often the spiritual emotional things in your life will cause it. And sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes the problems you're having will create a spiritual emotional imbalance. So it's like a chicken and egg syndrome. And I always find people will come in with a sore knee and I'll treat them for underlying causes, and the next thing there's all kinds of different things happening in their life, good things. And they don't always attribute it to the treatment. So there's so many great side effects, and there's nothing that can go wrong. It's very safe. The acupuncture, the needles are very fine, they're hair thin, and they don't go in very deep. You shouldn't be putting big needles into certain areas. We know what depths to put them in. And again, it's all based on your diagnosis of which ones to use. And the World Health Organization says there's quite a number, I think they have about 100 conditions that acupuncture treats if done by a qualified professional. And you have to have a minimum of 3 years training in order to do good diagnosis. Because if you don't have good diagnosis, the acupuncture may work, but it may be hit and miss, and it may be just lucky, but you may not be able to address the underlying conditions. And if you have a chronic condition, I always recommend the herbal formulas. I love the formulas. At first I said when I went to schools, I'm only going to do Western herbs. And there's this fellow named Thomas Guerin. He actually takes Western herbs and gives them all the proper Chinese medicine properties. So I need to know if an herb is warming or cooling, all the properties in order to use it in Chinese medicine. And so I have about 40 local herbs that I have that with. But you know, the ancient formulas were very well balanced. They're still used today. They're thousands of years old. In fact, this book was written 300 BC. It was documented, but actually the fellow and all the information in it that was carried on tradition is actually the 3rd millennium BC. That's how old this is. And they use herbal formulas, they use acupuncture. So this is kind of a really interesting book. But basically, the herbs, they're well balanced. They have most of my formulas, I just use the ancient classical formulas from a good supplier though, because people worry about Chinese herbs and all the things you hear about production. I get mine from the US, where they have very well controlled manufacturing process and choice of plants and the process of how the plants are distilled and things like that. Not distilled, but how they produce the herbal formulas or the tablets. It's very well controlled and it's very good quality. And so the people that I respect in my field endorse these people. So I really believe that they're good quality. There's nothing to worry about. You can get herbal formulas in, say, Chinatown, that I use myself, and I give to my husband. He calls them dirt pills. He has an upset stomach and headache. They're really great, but I wouldn't give them to my clients because I'm not exactly sure of the manufacturing of them. But I give my clients really good herbs, and they're, like I said, they've been around for thousands of years. I mean, Dr. Oz keeps talking about this new herb that does this, and everybody's always, well, they've been using it for thousands of years in Chinese medicine. There's so many herbs that they're using that we don't know about, that Western medicine doesn't know about, that the West doesn't know about. And I've got them sitting on my shelf. I have one called Andrographis, which has a stachys root, and it's a natural antibiotic antiviral. And it's being sold off the shelves when they had bird flu epidemic, or afraid of the bird flu. It was flying off the shelves in China. You couldn't get it, but I've got it on my counter. So there's so many things that we don't know about that we have access to. You can't get these Chinese herbs though unless you're a licensed practitioner. And I had to go through a lot of junk hoops in order to get them. Show them all my courses, my licenses, and things like that. So it's not something that you would want to go to the store and buy on your own. You really do need to have a proper diagnosis. And so that's the herbal part. And there's so many things we can treat. What's so nice about it is we don't even need to have a Western diagnosis. Because all we need to do is take your signs and symptoms, tell me what that looks like. What is it that's bothering you? And we can fit our medicine to it. We can diagnose and still treat it. For example, when they had the SARS epidemic, they were busy trying to figure out what the cause was, whether it was a bacteria or a virus or whatever it was, to try to combat it. We could still treat people with SARS because all we have to know is to present the symptoms. Now, not to say that Western medicine, we do need our antibiotics, we do need the research, we do need the interventions that save people's lives. I mean, it's really important. But the two medicines together, what I do is really good for chronic conditions, for long-term, things aren't totally broken, but they're not totally correct, you know. You should probably be using Chinese medicine as a preventative. And unfortunately, quite often I get people coming to me, and this is why I want to educate people about it. There's so many things, I'm going to tell you in a minute, all the things we can treat. But the reason being is people wait until they're broken, and they're on a ton of drugs, they've had surgeries, and nothing's working, then they come to me. And they come to my colleagues, and I kind of wish they would come sooner if they'd known about it. If you have a nagging problem, you should really look at it right away and get it fixed. You know, if you've got sciatica and you're limping, or your knees are sore, or you've got some digestive issues that don't seem to want to resolve, you should really get them checked before it gets into something else. And then it's a lot harder to treat, and unfortunately we're not covered by MSI, so most insurances do cover it and you don't need a referral if you're going to a registered practitioner, and not all people are registered. Some people say they're an acupuncturist, but they're not registered, so you do have to be aware of that. You can go to my website. I have a couple of different websites I'll tell you about in a minute. But just to tell you the kinds of things we can treat, I have to get the list out because there's so many. But there's allergies and sinusitis, asthma, COPD, autoimmune disorders, diabetes, cancer care. We look after people who are having cancer care. We're not saying we can cure cancer, but we can help you go through the treatment. We can help you lessen the effects of the intervention. And headaches and migraines, pain, any kind of pain, reproductive disorders. I know we've had Dr. Lee on the show. She's a wonderful person. I just love her. She does a lot of work with fertility and has seen lots of babies as a result. That's really wonderful. Stress, anxiety, and depression. There's lots of mental disorders. We need more support for those folks here. And acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine is really good for that. Weight loss and addictions. So, and then with all those, there's all kinds of things that we can treat. And so I have a clinic in Muscatella Harbor in my home. It's on the lake, which was a cottage. It's a wonderful, warm and inviting place to be. I have websites, www.acupuncturenovascotia.ca and www.holisticacupuncture.ca. If you have any questions, and you can see what my clinic looks like, you're certainly welcome to come. Is there anything I missed, Steve?
You have started an amazing, great journey. You have provided us with amazing, great information. And most certainly, right before we did the interview, Gwen was explaining to me that her very first goal and mission to come on the show was to demystify, explain, and educate. And that is precisely what we are doing. We are not done, but we certainly have done an amazing, great start. There are different types of treatments, as she explained, and I liked how you were talking about the overall, because that is so true. You have to look at all the key points, all the key facts as you were explaining, and really understand more what it is. And I will tell you, each and every person who watched the Steve Show today is more than welcome to contact her. We will provide with all the information at the bottom of the screen to be able to contact her. Whenever you do so, do yourself a favor and simply advise her the code GOGETITNOW. The code GOGETITNOW is for her a way to say this person deserves and wishes to have a treatment now. That's why you're Go Getting It Now. Continuing to what you were saying, coming back on that, the acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, allergies and sinusitis, asthma and autoimmune disorders, diabetes, cancer care, headaches and migraines, pain, reproductive disorders, stress, anxiety, and depression, as well as weight loss and addiction. Now, I do not want to tell you more information because, again, we will certainly learn more. Each of the episodes with Gwen will permit us to demystify and understand even more. I would like to provide you as well today with the address, which is 68 Scotts Lake Road Lane. So please make sure you write it down. 68 Scotts Lake Road, and that's in Muscatatuck Harbor. And there's also other locations in HRM. And as I want to let you know, you can call and reserve as soon as possible. 220-4677. Again, 220-4677. And her website, www.holisticacupuncture.ca. And I will repeat again, www.holisticacupuncture.ca. You have any questions regarding our show today? Any suggestions, any feedback? Again, this show is there to educate you, to provide also you the chance to learn more about Gwen Williams and what she can do for you within HRM and across Nova Scotia. So, more certainly, I gotta say, I was just about to ask our studio audience, did you appreciate to have Gwen Williams here today? Wonderful. Well, thank you very much to our wonderful studio audience. And
well, thank you. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. You can also book online from the address that URL that Steve gave you, and you can book a free consult if you just want to come down and chat and learn more. And please leave your comments so I can see what you're interested in learning more about. Thank you.
And I will bring back one point that you said, Gwen. It is a lot better whenever you start to feel something is wrong to reach her and get to talk to her. Because it is not whenever things have got out of disorder and you're suffering too much that things are easier to treat. So thank you very much for coming with us. And what do we say? Stay tuned.
I don't know. Stay tuned to next